My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. I'm only here to even a score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice is cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Night of Ones podcast, episode number 62. And some of us are a little blue. We are the only podcast that features a UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst, and hoops player, an infamous, yes, that's infamous rapper who hasn't rapped in a while because we're not winning. Our resident influencer, an IG star shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. And remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, Twitter, all the things, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle, the Big 12 Huddle, which I'm on, and a new stream that will eventually come to you, and Alan is thinking about the week after next. So welcome, everybody, to the show. It's been an eventful week in UCF land. We've got some coaches that have left, some coaches that have been re-elevated, if that makes any sense, and a whole lot of uncertainty around our program right now. We're going to talk about it this week, and that's what we're going to lead with. We'll do a little text talk, but after that, we're going to talk about the state of the program and what we should expect going forward. It's a tough time, and there's a lot of opinions, and there was a big change, so I'm excited about that. We'll talk a little bit about the BYU game and the upcoming Arizona game. We'll give you our predictions on the Arizona game as well. A new star might have emerged that may be leading the team during that week. We'll give a little listener love, other UCF news, give a Big 12 recap, and then we'll end it up, as we always do, on sports that Alan does not watch. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring to the stage Nobra.
Hey, no.
Wow.
Right, let's go.
Wow. That's the UCF fan base. Hey now, right now. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
All right. Let's give at least the patented hair flip to give us some energy. Come on. Oh, come on. Do it. Do a full. There you go. All right. That's good. All right. Next to the stage, someone that needs no introduction, our very own 7-footer. And Trey slid into in front of his screen because he thought I was going to say him. Ben Stout. Welcome back, Ben.
What's up? What's up? Welcome to be back. I'm glad to be back. And unfortunately, it's again, we're talking about a UCF football loss. 5 in a row.
Yep, I'm blaming it on Josh.
Almost basketball season, guys.
All right, take that hat off and give us a hair flip. Let's go. It's been a while.
The no hair flip? Sure.
There you go. The bobblehead
hair flip.
There it is. All right. Next to the stage, someone who we've sorely missed, but unfortunately has been busy. Trey Neal, welcome back.
Greetings, gentlemen. How you doing?
Great. I don't know if we're going to be calling each other gentlemen after the end of this podcast, but, whatever. I'm sure there's other people we won't be calling gentlemen. Trey, I'd ask you to do a hair flip, but it's more like a bobble. So why don't you go ahead and give us the bobblehead? There it is. All right. Next to the stage, someone whose hair we're dying to cut and just wants us to win one game. Alan Levin, welcome back to the show, sir.
Oh, my finger is lost, but just one game.
Just one game. Oh, come on. Bring the energy. If we're going to be negative, at least bring good negative energy.
I'm going to bring good negative energy once it's my turn to talk.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and remove that heat lid and show the folks what they want to see.
There we go.
Remember, folks, if we get to 1,000 subscribers, Alan has promised to cut his hair, so don't forget that. And last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar.
We're now a convertible because now our roof is gone. And if you're an old head, you know where that's from. Rizk starts throwing up some touchdowns. So, like Europe, we're at the final countdown. 4 more football games. Let's add up that. 3 wins for a bowl. That's so. 2 more times at home. Let's go. So 1 more non-betting goal. Start the complaining.
With sound effects. You even sounded sad saying that. And by the way, you need to choke up on the mic a little bit there, man. We can barely hear you.
That's what whispering is for.
Okay, all right. So no whispering, Josh. Again, I'm blaming this week's results on you. Let's talk a little bit.
What balls did I throw?
Oh, B. All right. So let's get a little bit of text talk this week. We really want to open up the text thread and see what we had going on. Down. Are you ready?
Your sound is a little bit.
You just want a little.
I didn't hear a word you just said.
Blaming me.
All right.
Blaming me. My mic's fine.
Can you hear me, Ben Stout?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what that was. That being said, Ben Stout, do you have a text talk for us this week?
I do. Just found it 2 seconds before the show as usual. Trey said, I think this was like yesterday. It wasn't actually during the game, but it says, we need to start Rizk and open up the pass game, see what these wide receivers have, and if Gus can call good passing concepts for a throwing QB. And I just simply replied, he can't.
Well, and I guess he recognized that as well, because he will no longer be calling the plays yet again. So he went from I'm calling the plays because the OC back at UCF to I'm not calling the plays, I'm pulling back. And that was when the whole thing was going on with Christie. So totally understandable. To I'm calling the plays again and taking him from Darren Henshaw. And we're taking those play calling duties away again. And we're going back to Harris. So
feel like we're looking for another scapegoat, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's the general vibe. I mean, seriously, like when we think about this, like I watched the press conference today, and if you watch Gus, actually Ted Roof did the press conference yesterday for the assistants. Okay, and if you watch Gus's body language and some of the questions he was asked today, this felt very much like this came from somewhere else, that he was getting pressure to remove somebody, everybody, whatever, but make changes, right? We know that over the past couple of weeks, we've had some very high value boosters come out and really criticize Gus and the program. So, at the end of the day, what I felt when I watched Gus was he was very annoyed. He was worried. And it felt very much like it was something that happened that he didn't have a choice in and was told to do. So it was very interesting because he said that the news started coming out about 8 o'clock in the morning that Ted Roof was going to be let go. Gus said he did it this morning, which means he had like a couple of hours to get to the press conference. And, when he was asked some specific questions, he's going to ask who's going to handle what duties. There weren't a whole lot of answers. So that tells me that this was all right, you need to get this done and you need to make some changes and you need to do it now kind of situation. What do you guys think?
Are we finishing the text talk?
Yeah, I'm about to say this sounds like we're going right into the show. If you
no, this is part of the text talk. Like I want to know.
I'll answer it with one of my 2 text talks, which is there's lots of fire Gus around here, and I was in the shady side of the stadium this time, and it was coming from some 17-year-olds, right? But if you were at that stadium, you saw BYU pretty much take over the away side of the stadium. I mean, I wouldn't say it's 50-50, but it wasn't that far off. The seats are emptier. People are choosing to do other things than go to UCF games. Terry was there. Most of us are part of a UCF message board. Shout out to Brandon Hellwig. But I was on the field next to Terry Mahajer. He was at that game. And he saw it. He saw it we were both on the field like 15 minutes before the game. He saw it. So I think we're at the crossroads, and I'm not talking about Clarksdale, right? That's a Mississippi joke, by the way. We're at the point where you can see it in Gus's voice. You can feel it in the stands. You can hear it in Alan's lack of passion about anything football right now. We're all in this malaise, and we all know why, and nothing is changing it.
All right.
Spot on.
So, going back to the original question, which is, where do you guys think this is coming from? Do you guys agree that it felt like it was forced or no?
Yeah.
That one? Yeah.
I mean,
of course it was.
Yeah, it feels very forced because, first of all, it's like a buddy of his. They've coached together multiple times in their respective careers. And, I mean, it's kind of what Josh just said. I mean, I'm sure Terry heard all the boos. He's heard all of the apathy around the fan base, around the team right now, and, all the dysfunction that's going on right now. I don't buy that Gus would just elect to fire someone he hired, 8 weeks ago or 8 games ago, not even in the first full year of a 2-year contract, and pay the rest of it out, especially with 4 games left. Like, who cares? What are they really playing for? A meaningless bowl game. So yeah, it feels like Terry sat him down and said, you got to do something right now. And yeah, he's the sacrificial lamb right now. But yeah, it definitely feels on the force side. I'd be pretty surprised if Gus chose to do that on his end. He seems someone's like very loyal to his friends, and that's who he hires, buddies and things like that. It doesn't seem like he'd fire. So especially when the defense had just as many issues last year, and it wasn't like Addison got let go or demoted 8 games in. So I think it was.
Well, I would argue, other than the BYU game, in which case, like 3 of our secondary starters.
Yeah.
Like our defense was making strides, and that's the thing that gets me about this, right? So Florida, Iowa State, this defense played pretty good football, right? So, and people are saying, oh, they're still leaving 30 points per game. Well,
no,
dude, if you are 40 minutes on a field, it's going to happen. The average points per minute, if you look at the rate of the average point per minute, right, of our defense. And again, I'm not trying to defend the defense. It's not where we want it to be, but I was seeing progress is actually better than it was last year. And it was around the same as it was the year before. So defensively speaking, like if our offense had half of a
pulse,
half of a pulse and didn't leave our guys out there for like 40 minutes, I'm sorry. If you consider how much time they were out there versus what the productivity of BYU was, the defense was not bad. They were just hung out to dry big time and shorthanded. Shorthanded. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I think for me, I agree with everybody saying we needed a scapegoat, and Gus put so much of this season, especially on the offensive side of the ball, squarely on his shoulders, basically saying, I'm the play caller. I'm the guy that's going to be in charge of everything that goes on in this team, but especially on the offensive side of the ball. So basically that, like, I believe what Josh and Alan are essentially saying, that like, and you are too, Roger, where you're like, where Terry Mahajer came to Gus and said, we gotta do something. We gotta like show the fan base that we're, doing something to, make a change, make a difference, whatever that may be. And because of everything I just said about Gus's role on offense this season, it can't be on the offensive side of the ball. So they look to the defensive side of the ball, and you honestly can't fire the guy that you kind of demoted, but you wanted to keep on because he's a good recruiter, and Addison Williams, made him the co-defensive coordinator, and kind of this fake title. And if you were to look anywhere else in the position groups, that you got such a strong recruiting with the position groups and defensive line coaches, and a really strong recruiters there, and just overall good recruiters. And And you guys know more about this stuff than I do, but it seemed like Ted Roof was a little bit not he was more of the coach as opposed to the recruiting guy.
Oh,
and
yeah. No,
when
he
you're
wasn't at
looking
all.
for a sacrificial lamb to go ahead and get rid of, Ted Roof made the most sense, because the only thing we got going for us the entire Gus era is a win against Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl and recruiting. Like, it's the only thing that we have had going for us the entire time. So you're not going to fire anybody who's involved heavily in recruiting. It's the easiest target to fire a guy who is not involved in recruiting. And so I think that all lined up to Ted Roof, getting the kick out of the door. And I absolutely agree with you guys that Gus didn't want to do it. I mean, he brought in a guy that was kind of controversial, but he was his buddy.
Yeah, and I want to go back quickly to something we were talking about, this time of possession. When I was talking to people in my section at the game on Saturday, I think somewhere in the fourth quarter it was like 36-16 time of possession with BYU having the ball. I mean, what did we get, like 4 plays or something like that? 3 or 4 plays in the first quarter. Ted Roof is a sacrificial lamb. I think we all know it and see it, and we understand that, and that's the way you play the game, and that's okay. The defense still has yet to be the complete issue of this entire team. And Roger's right. We had 3 people who weren't playing, and one I think wasn't playing as of that day. I think Tennyson had some type of vertigo or something, and that's not something that just happens, 5 days from now, and then they're not going to be out. So you have to make changes even on that defense, probably day of. So it's a lot. It's Gus not going for 4th and 1 on the 50.
Oh my gosh! Don't get me started.
We'll get there.
No, seriously.
Those are
on
the
the
things.
text talk,
Yeah.
though, on the text talk, I said that. Like, no, it's so frustrating, because I was like, we are on the verge of a 5-game losing streak. You're at the 50-yard line, and you have one of the best rushing offenses in the entire country, and you don't go for it on 1 yard? Like, I have not been as, how should I say this, critical of Gus as some of you, right, Alan? But I mean, how do you not set the tone? How do you not set the tone against a top, like, let's 15, but realistically a top 10 undefeated team at home? How do you not make that happen? I don't understand how you don't make that play call, especially after they just marched down the field, and it resulted in us having 2 minutes of time of possession in the entire first quarter. 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only that, we deferred to them on the kickoff. We won the coin toss and deferred to them. We're not clearly he thought that we were going to stop him, and then he gets like you said, gets the opportunity after they scored a touchdown, gets the opportunity to continue and extend that drive, keep our defense off the field, for crying out loud, and he doesn't go for it. I agree. I mean, that's the type of thing we can talk about Gus's team all day long, but that's a head coach's decision right there. That, I mean, quite frankly, maybe we'd be we wouldn't even be as upset if we went for it and didn't get it. We'd be more upset with the team overall, wouldn't the players maybe not executing. But like you said, we have such a great rushing attack. We still are the number 1 rushing attack in the dang conference, and we don't go for it with 1 yard to get on the 50-yard line. I mean, what's the risk?
Dude, do it. Where's the Wild Harvey? We haven't seen that all year this year. Why not just do that, or do a tush push? Do something. You've got a big enough quarterback.
What do we have to lose?
Well, hold on. There's nothing to lose for the team. Do you feel like Gus believes there's really nothing to lose at this point? Are we seeing play calling like that?
Even if he doesn't believe that, though, we were down, what was it, 10-0, 17-0 at that point? Who cares? Just do what would it would turn from a 17-0 game to a 24-0 game? Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I just it's one thing if it was, we had the lead or it was tied and it was a really tightly contested game.
I mean that series or that play was
7-0.
Yeah, it was 7-0.
Yeah.
It was the first. It was the very
We
first
should've
drive
still
we
went
had.
for it.
Even so, though, it's you have a guy like RJ Harvey who like that's your best asset. That's the only thing. That's all we got. It's like all we have is the dice roll. All we have is RJ Harvey. That's the only move we got. So
I mean, I said this as soon as it was 4th and 1. I said go for it in all caps, like go for it.
we're not at the
Because
10-yard line. Yeah.
What
it's
do
like,
we have to lose? Like you guys said, in a 4-game losing streak, it looks like our season is like going south. Like it looks like we might not win another game. I thought when Alan said that earlier in the year, I was kind of joking around, but it does not look like that. So what do we have to lose, to be honest with you? Like what do we have to lose? 1 yard? I mean, if we have the best rushing team in the conference, what do we have to lose for 1 yard? It's 1
We
yard.
definitely have the best rushing offensive player in the conference in RJ Harvey.
we could have gotten that yard. I would be confident in any of the running backs getting it outside of Richardson. I would have even been confident with Jacoby Brown getting it. Someone would have gotten that yard, and I would have been okay if we didn't get it. I would have not criticized the call if we somehow didn't. I would maybe criticize the O-line for sucking, but I wouldn't criticize the play call.
I mean, unless he did something outlandish for the 1 yard. If he just ran the ball, I wouldn't. You can't criticize that. I don't know. I don't.
All I'm gonna say is this: the problem is not necessarily the defense.
Yeah.
The problem is the offense, and I get it. He was getting pressure. He had to make changes. Whatever. Roof is the sacrifice. All I can say is this year's defense, and granted, we have some better linebackers than we did last year, and we have a little bit more size in the secondary, right? And there are definitely problems that I wanted to see fixed, like the 75-yard cushion that we had every time for defensive backs, right? Like, yeah, there's some things that I would want to see corrected, but defense was not the problem. And here's the thing. One of you alluded to it earlier. Ted Roof was supposed to be here to teach Addison Williams, right? And so we got 8 games, and we did get a better pass rush. We did get a 4-down lineman front. We got some more exotic blitzes than we had last year and all of that fun stuff, right? But now you're handing more.
I think compared to last year, we were more physical too. Just compared to last year, we were more. Physical.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was definitely more of an attitude, more of a we finally started seeing our players get to the quarterback and get real pressure, which is exactly what Ted Roof was brought in to do, right? Because it also stops the run game at the same time. So that was that. So now we're handing the keys back to someone from last year, okay, who did not have a lot of complexity to his schemes. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we're handing the ball back to Tim Harris. And I get it. He had to step down. That was probably one of the things that he was voluntold to do, and to step away from the play calling duties. If anything, just to show that they were doing something, because you had a $10 million donor who was trashing him this past weekend. And before that, you had the previous weekend, you had a $5 million donor who was doing it, right? And for UCF, that's no joke.
Yeah. There's
That's
not too
no
many
joke.
of those. There's not too many of those at UCF.
So it's not like it's Yellowwood over at Auburn, right? It's not that. But for UCF, it might as well be, because they can't give as much, but comparatively speaking to the donations that are coming in, and NIL was supposed to do even better this upcoming year. I'm sorry, you got these guys on board. I'm telling you right now, if Terry wasn't hearing it from the fan base, even Giuliano got on Twitter this week and said it. He was definitely hearing it from the folks that are investing in the program with real money, and you cannot continue to do that. So the question is, okay, what does the rest of the season look like, right? Like, do we feel like this team can? We haven't even talked about Dylan Rizk coming in towards the end. We've played 4 quarterbacks in the span of 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? So what do we do what do you guys think we do at the quarterback situation? Let me ask that question. And I want to ask some bigger picture questions, because quite frankly, BYU doesn't matter at this point.
I mean,
I hate to say that way, but between the injuries, between the program changes, between we're really asking some bigger questions here. And listen, should Gus retire maybe at the end of the season? Maybe he wants to, right? Good job, Nobra. Thanks for sliding that in there. That was perfect. Maybe he wants to do that, right? We don't know. But what we do know is we still got the rest of the season to go. We've got questions at quarterback. We've got Dylan Rizk, who came in and could throw a forward pass. And I hate to say this to everybody, to me, Gus Malzahn and KJ was not looking for Cam Newton per se in the way that he played, or at least not like the JRP version of what we got, right? KJ was a pocket passer who could get out of a jam. Dylan Rizk played that way this past week in the fourth quarter. That's what they were looking for out of KJ. They were not looking for what we were getting out of Ja'Cory Brown. Ja'Cory cannot pass yet at the level. He just doesn't have the control that he needs to have. And so
he has an extremely talented arm. Just he reminds me a lot. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been watching
Holman.
Anthony Richardson.
Oh yeah, or Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. I mean, Holman didn't run as much. Anthony Richardson cannot. Like sometimes he'll make a beautiful throw, but most of the time it's erratic. It's just a fastball that sails, or it's a fastball in the dirt. It looks great coming out, but where it ends up isn't good. So I mean,
well, Ja'Cory's problem is he throws off his back foot all the time.
Yeah,
he's constantly running. He never sets his feet.
Yeah, it's mechanical. So, with a lot of those guys, that's the problem. Dylan Rizk is he's a true pocket guy. That's what he was when he was at Cardinal Gibbons. Like that's just what he is, and he's mobile. I wouldn't say he's hyper athletic, but he's good enough to where if it's not there, he can get you 4 or 5 yards. Which sometimes that's all you need.
He's the Iowa State quarterback, right? Yeah, that guy wasn't a hyper athlete like you mentioned, but he got out of a jam.
But that's what you should. That's what a good offense should be. Even McKenzie Milton, as great as he was when he was at his peak, it was a great facilitator who could get you out of a jam. It was never we're gonna run you into the ground and then throw off of that. That's not what it is. That's what
Gus wants to do.
Yeah,
that's what Gus wants to do.
Like Andrew's quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, your guy, Roger, Joe Burrow. They are elite passers that can get you out of a jam when they need to. That's what football at the quarterback position, to be a high-level team, a high-level program, you're going to go as far as your quarterback can throw you. Like that's just what it is. Because at the end of the day, teams will take away the run. A good team is going to take away what you do best. What can you do as your curveball? And I mean, just to answer Roger's question, I want to see Dylan Rizk, because to me, he's shown the most passing ability, the passing nuance, the ability to make throws. Like, I mean, I think you guys said, Ben, you used my text talk, but I'm dead serious with that. Like, put him in. Let's put in a real passing scheme and see what we can do. I mean, we have all these highly touted receivers that were transfers or coming in. What do we have to lose? Let's see what we're going to be building towards. I mean, that's what you do in these situations. Well, sadly, that's what ends up happening.
I think logistically maybe that's the wrong word, but that's the word I'm going to use. Logistically, like the environment that college football is with the red shirts, right? Like it makes the most sense to start Rizk and play him the majority of time the rest of the season. And the reason why I say that is because he already took a red shirt last year, right? So like, I mean, he's got a red shirt under his belt. He stayed with the program. He didn't go anywhere. And he's got this is his second year with the scheme, somewhat, or at least the coaching staff. Let's put it that way. Who knows what our scheme is at this point? But he's the least risk to put it together. I mean, because if you're starting EJ the rest of the season, I mean, that's 4 games like that. He's going to burn his red shirt, and EJ's not going to want to do that, I imagine. I mean, regardless if he stays or not, he's going to want to keep his red shirt this year, I imagine. And so if you're going to develop for the future, you may as well see what you have in Rizk. I mean, you may as well see what you have.
Let's talk about that, because EJ supposedly, according to sources, so we'll use this as allegedly, right? EJ refused to go in the last quarter of the game. Gus wanted to put him in. and he refused.
So is that why Rizk even got a chance?
Yes.
Well, then talk about Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe right there. Like, seize your opportunity. I'm not calling him.
So
Tom Brady,
EJ wants to transfer, is what we're basically saying.
Well, I'm not
Or he's trying to
necessarily.
keep his red shirt. I mean,
I think
Allegedly.
it's more he's trying to keep his red shirt than
He
it
could
is.
keep
for
his
him
red
trying
shirt
to
and play in
transfer.
that game, though.
No,
but I
he
mean,
can't.
say
Yes,
they
he can.
roll
he
him
can't.
out the rest
Yes,
of the
he can.
year.
Of course he can. He's
I'm
only played in one
saying
game.
You don't want to.
Two.
This is how I see it. You don't.
Okay,
want
either
to,
way, he can play. He can
Yeah,
play.
you're
up to-
right.
You don't want to burn a game on one quarter. You would want to burn
Yeah.
a game starting from.
But he could keep his red shirt regardless. If he's only playing two games, he can keep
But
his.
I think in his head, he's like, listen, I'm not going to waste a game in the fourth quarter. That means nothing. We're going to run the ball like it doesn't mean anything. Whereas a guy like Dylan Rizk is like, I haven't played in 2 years. I'll finally get my shot to go out there and do something. Let me go try to do it.
And he's already burned his red shirt, so he's just
exactly. He has nothing to lose. So
he has literally nothing.
I think that's why he did it. I mean, that's my guess. I don't have the source.
What would EJ? I believe there's only 4 games left, so it would be he would basically lose one game that he may or may not play in. I mean, I don't see what his even if he played in 1 second. I mean, like I get like kind of why he wouldn't, but he wouldn't really lose anything either if you play because he could still play in 2 more games and then or if just not play in 1 extra game. Like I don't really see any risk for him like or any downside of him playing. I get like if he's just going to come in and just hand off the ball, then it's kind of pointless. I get it, but I don't see why he would refuse playing when he would have done probably more than just hand the ball if he would have thrown it. Rizk was throwing it. I mean, there was still a healthy amount of game left. I mean, Rizk ended up playing a good amount of snaps. So if that was what EJ would have gotten, I don't get why he would reject that.
I think it's to me. I just think he wants to. If he's going to burn a game, he wants to play a lot of it. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, I'm not saying that's right or wrong.
We have to understand the era. Like it's hard to wrap our head around sometimes. But this is the time of college football where athletes don't think about the team; they think about themselves first, and then they think maybe about the team. But like
maybe they want to risk injury.
I mean, hold on, and that's not just then. I mean, Alan just did an interview last week. You just did an interview on your podcast, right? And I encourage everybody to go listen to that. Where this was talked about. Actually, one of our listeners, and I'll mention him later, in Listener Love, was talking about wanting to hear from the players what their mindset is, right? And this was pre-NIL. And so Allen had one of the what could have been one of the most prolific wide receivers at UCF on, and he basically broke that all down. And you got to remember, folks, we're at an era now where these players have options to do things that they never had before. So when you're going to play college football, you're putting in the hours, you're putting the extra study work in, you're going and doing the weightlifting, you're doing all of those things. It's no longer a team sport, it's an individual sport. And it's how can I cash out? Because I have the ability now to cash out before I get to the NFL. So the end game is not just the NFL, right? Most of these players, and we've said it over and over again, are not going to make it to the NFL. I think it's 0.5% of all NCAA athletes or football athletes are going to make it, and I think that's even Division I.
1% of the 1% that go to college. 1%
exactly.
Pros.
So, which means, right, that those folks that are coming in, right, if they know they aren't going to be good enough, or if they don't think they'll have a chance, or even if they do think they still need to monetize as much as their college career as they possibly can. And that's the difference, because they can do that now. So they're going to put themselves first. And there's nothing wrong with that, except for the rules have created this ecosystem that we have. The schools, I talked about this a few weeks ago. The schools have no recourse. The coaches have no recourse. Nobody has any recourse.
Yeah. It is. We are in. This is, to me, worse than the pros. Like the pros is 1,000%. It's way more organized. And granted, I played. If I were to be getting money, I would 1,000% probably be doing what they were doing too. Because there's no. It's all about me, and the worst thing that can happen is I transfer somewhere else and make more money. That's the worst thing that can happen. Like that's the downside to everything. So
going back to Colson, right? I think if I'm Colson, I'm thinking, all right, Cincinnati, he got one play, which I don't understand for the life of me why Gus did this, but send him in for one play when Brown's helmet came off, right? So at this point, if I'm him, I've got 2 games left before I burn a red shirt. I reclassified this year as a 17-year-old kid. I got to start in. I asked to wait till the end of the season. And if we're in a dumpster fire till we get there, until the last 2 games of the season, then if I'm EJ Colson, the narrative is, and Gus's narrative is too, hey, we're rebuilding with EJ. This is going to be our guy. You know, we saw him earlier. We're going to start that rebuild then. Now, what does Dylan Rizk do in the interim? Because I can't see them trotting KJ out there. Could we beat the likes of Arizona and some other people with Ja'Cory Brown? I think we could. He almost beat Iowa State, not by himself, with the help of the defense, right? And 14 points essentially that they gave them. But at the same time, I think you take the risk, roll with risk for the next few games, and then if he doesn't work, you throw EJ in there, because EJ is going to be playing a deflated Utah team towards the end of the season, right? That is not very good as it stands right now. And who do they play before that? Is it West Virginia that we play?
Yes. West Virginia.
Yeah. And West Virginia, right? So that's where I think this is coming from. But EJ, you know, it doesn't make sense if you're from EJ, especially after you're coming off the Cincinnati game when you went in for one play and lost the game. Unless I'm getting a chance to really play some true snaps, whether it be because I want to get better or whether it be because I want to set myself up for the future, a few snaps is not long enough. This is a 17-year-old kid who came to play college football. He was not expecting to play this year. This was supposed to be KJ's team. He was supposed to learn and grow. Well, KJ flamed out and died, right? He crashed, right? So crashed and burned hard, nosedive straight in the ground. So at this point, if I'm EJ Colson, if that was the plan, even if I want to stay here, which I think he does, even if he wanted to stay here, there's no way I'm going to sacrifice another game for a quarter.
That's fair. I mean, just going back to Rizk, I've personally been told that prior to this game that Rizk would never see a snap at UCF because he can't run the RPO. That was the big thing on him. However, multiple people in preseason camp said by far he threw the best ball. It wasn't even a question. More than KJ Jefferson, more than other people. I was personally DM'd this from a couple players. And the thing about Gus is he wants a run first quarterback that has that optionally can throw or not. Maybe they can throw. Great if they can throw, but it's not a must. When it should be kind of like Trey, what you were saying, the other way around, where it should be a guy that can throw that also has the ability to run, but it's not his number one strength. And that's exactly what Rizk can do. I mean, he at the end of the day, he was second on the team in yards and he was rushing yards in the game. And he was only in there for, whatever it was, 2 quarters. Yeah. He looked, was averaging close to 7 yards a carry. He can move. He's got mobility. He's not Ja'Cory speed or anything like that, but he can move. And, as far as playing for the rest of the year, absolutely. That was by far his just series that he put together was by far the best I've seen a quarterback play all year. I know it was limited. It might've been against BYU's 2s or 3s, but it just would look by far the most dynamic in the air. I mean, when you get someone like Magwood involved and you got Jacoby Jones getting his first touchdown over 100 yards, that was the best passing I've seen at UCF in a long time, at least this year. I mean, obviously JRP had his moments too, but that was the best passing I've seen in a long, long time. And yeah,
we beat Florida with that type of play at quarterback. We beat Florida this year.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Go to the swamp and win with Rizk at quarterback. Type of play, that type of play at quarterback.
Right.
Because I'm not going to say that we would have guaranteed win that game if he was the starter. I'm just saying that we win that game with that type of play at quarterback.
Yeah. And just to have that option now, I mean, I didn't know that about EJ that he refused to go in. The fact that it just kind of shows more Gus, like, once again, like,
allegedly,
he was,
Alan.
Okay, but whatever.
Yeah.
He was basically forced to put Rizk in because the guy that he wanted, EJ, wouldn't go in. And look what happened. We have probably our best all-around complete quarterback. I know it's very limited and small sample size, but seemingly, let's just say we're going with that. We're the best quarterback on our roster, and we're not playing. It's just another thing in a series of just Gus Malzahn mistakes with personnel that has reoccurred year after year after year after him. So yeah, I really want to see what Rizk can do with 4 quarters and utilizing the passing game. I mean, I've talked about all year that I thought our receivers were crap, but who knows? Maybe now that we have it, maybe you're going to see Magwood and Jacoby Jones and Bradell Richardson look really good because they have a real quarterback throwing to them. So I'd love to see what he can do.
Bradell didn't get any play.
No, I know. I'm just saying if they end up, because Kobe's got injured in the game, that maybe they have to throw in a third receiver, and that may or may not be him, or it's, whomever the case may be. But so that's just, that was the one thing that it really excited me about the game. The last few games, there hasn't been much other than the defense been kind of improving, but offense excites more people in general. And I thought that was really good to see. And I really hope that that's who gets named starting. And I think at least it's a positive sign that he refused to name a starting quarterback. So it's not a lock that it's Jakuri again.
So I'll say a couple things with both Rizk and what we saw at BYU. So the first thing is that when I was at spring practice, I stayed late. I was talking to Caden Kittler and a couple of other guys, like way past the time they need to get into ice baths. And they basically said, it was good talking with you. We need to get in. He was still out there. He was still out there throwing over and over and over again. He was literally the last player on the field with a wide receiver catching. So I don't think that's the only time he put in that level of work, and Alan's DM slides about that kind of matches it. I also saw KJ throw 2 picks and everyone else just do kind of their thing during that time. Again, small sample size, but if you're doing it randomly on the third practice, you're probably doing it more than that. Also, on the BYU game, one of his touchdowns was definitely, I don't know if anyone was watching it, if it showed it on TV. I didn't watch the TV part of it, but there was a 2-on-1 on the right-hand side of the field where there was only one guy covering 2 people. And yeah. So I do think that was part of it, but he recognized it and threw the ball out there. I think that is an underrated part of what we haven't seen. Even Gus said it in his slightly sad conference this morning. He went through progressions, and I'm not saying it's JB and KJ weren't like one read and gone.
That's got to be what he's saying.
Pretty close.
That's what he's saying.
Well,
if we are at a Power 4 college football team. We should not be boasting about our quarterback going through progressions. That's not something we should be proud of. That's something that is expected. Like, that's correct. The fact that he went up there and said, "Oh, Dylan went through progressions." That's insane.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. It was more like this. And Dylan went through progressions.
So one last thing, and I will say, college football, unfortunately, is getting more like the NFL, and probably worse, as we said, as the team said earlier, because there are no boundaries or rules or unions or anything else like this, and a give and take between the parties. It's very, very one-sided, opposite of what it was when Trey was playing, right? Completely the opposite way, right?
Still one-sided.
Yeah. So if you miss on a quarterback in the NFL, you're in trouble. What's the Giants game right now? Is it still 9-9? Yeah,
nobody cares about the Giants, Josh.
But I'm using Daniel Jones. Well, no, it's 9-17, 9-16. I'm using Daniel Jones as a good example. They still are going to give him a long rope, and I don't know why at this point. It's been 4 years. He got 1 year lucky, and they gave him a contract. So
here's the problem, Josh. Though it's not that. The problem is that we don't have the option to have someone signed for longer than a year, and they can just transfer without penalty anywhere else they want. That's the problem.
I don't agree with that. If we get the right person, we can't afford the right person. We wanted Cam Ward. We couldn't have spent 1.5 of our $5 million of NIL to get him, right? We wanted Cam Ward, but no. So not only can't we get the people because we don't have the money because we're in this weird time in college football, we have to be very lucky on who we get, or we need to grow people like we used to. And I will still say,
that, Josh, you can't do that.
I disagree.
Hold on, let me finish. Yeah. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Anybody who's a 4-star, look at what's happened with our team. Anybody who's a 4-star that has come on board, how many of them have pushed out? And or not just our team, but any team. If they sit a season, they sign their NIL deal, they sit the season, right? And they are not guaranteed a starting position because these NIL deals are not just money. Okay. DJU up in FSU proved that, right? Part of his clauses. Yeah, there's clauses in there. He could not be benched. Literally could not be benched unless he was injured. That was the only way you could put somebody else in. That was in his deal. Right? So again, at the end of the day, the teams have no control. And part of that is because they can just leave the next year. Right? And if in the NFL, if you sign a rookie or something like that, at least you've got them for 2 to 3 years. Well, 3 years with an option, right? For the fourth year.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm not saying we need that, but at least 2.
Yeah.
I don't 100% agree with only this caveat. I still feel like the QB next year is on the team. A. B, if we build them up during the season, say it's Brown and he gets better at throwing the ball, then we have money to spend on him. We know what we're going to get versus the randomness of whatever comes through the portal. And then we can do what we do in the NFL. Look, we're going to give you about 350. If you take 50 less, we're going to get you more wide receivers because we can spend something on that money. Who knows if that would work? But that's the reality. We're in that type of, I wouldn't say insanity. It's just really a completely different time. And part of this is probably why Gus is going to be retiring or opting out pretty soon. It's why Saban is probably gone.
The reason why Gus probably will opt out coming soon is because he's getting old enough, right, that retirement is beckoning him. I think Christie will get tired of him being dragged through the mud. And right now, the reputation he had before he took the UCF job is being obliterated, right? If he does this another year and then he retires, one, he isn't getting another job, right? Unless he can blame it on his coordinators, which he kind of is setting himself up to do with the Ted Roof thing. And now, I mean, he took the play calling duties away from Darren Henshaw last year. What was the performance difference? Not much difference.
Yeah.
Right. And back to the original point about quarterbacks, Gus's system, and this is what I was getting at, and I think Alan reinforced it. Gus's system is a running quarterback who can throw to get guys out of the box. Right? To get guys out of the box. That's what he wants. A run first, a run threat. And then when they're loading the box, you throw the ball to stretch the field a little bit, and then you hit him again with the running attack. And you do that for time of possession. So at the end of the day, that's kind of where we're at with Gus Malzahn. But bringing it back to what we were originally talking about, where do we go from here? I mean, seriously, what do you guys see for the rest of the season?
You play all of your young guys. This is when we perfect thing that I remember 2016 season. Defensively, we were a very old team. Our guys that came in were freshmen. They needed to develop. Offensively, You guys saw how fast Frost went from Justin Holman when he got hurt to Mackenzie Milton immediately. Mackenzie went from third string, listen, you're going to sit, learn, we're going to keep your red shirt, to Holman got hurt. Well, might as well see what the young guys can do. And as we got halfway through that season, when we lost a couple of games and we're like, all right, we can't win conference anymore, he started playing the young guys. He started playing Jedrick Nelson a lot over Taylor Odom, over a lot of those guys. He started mixing in Nate Evans in with Dimitri Brim. He started mixing in even some of the guys who were sophomores like me and Kyle Gibson and Neville. We mixed in a lot more with the guys that were seniors trying to put out, tape to go to the NFL. They mixed us in. Now, they didn't just blatantly start us over them, but the reps went from about, 75%, 25% split to 60-40, 55-45. And that's just because they're looking to next year. Whether we want to think they're not or believe it or not, they're looking to next year. We can't win conference. We might not even make a bowl game. And even if we make a bowl game, most of the seniors or older guys are going to opt out just because they want to go train, and we're going to play young guys anyway. So why won't just look to the young guys? That's what you have to do. If you want to preserve any kind of positivity looking to next year, because if we just play all these old guys, it's going to be what? A bunch of question marks in the spring. They're going to have to go into the transfer portal, and we're going to do the same cycle all over again. That's what's going to happen. Sadly.
The funny thing about that, though, Trey, is that, like, on the offensive side of the ball, like, besides maybe seeing Bradell Richardson, like, it's kind of like you're not taking RJ, you're not resting RJ Harvey. Like, he's the guy. Like, he's the one that you want to honor the rest of the season. Yeah. And then Kobe Hudson got hurt. Who else do we have that are old guys on offense right now besides the offensive line? And, like, so yeah, like what we're really talking about offensively is like, let's see a little bit more wide receivers. Let's see what they got. Let's see what Bradell Richardson has, I guess. But really our running backs, I mean, behind RJ are relatively young. I mean,
I'm putting in Miles Montgomery. Yeah.
Miles Montgomery is Penny Boone's got one more year after this. And then you've also got Stacey Gage back there.
Nobody. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're right. We have some running backs that we could see, but, so maybe start mixing in some of those guys. Yeah, so I see what you're saying. Maybe a few guys on offense, but really, I guess defensively, it seems to be like all mercenaries. Really, I mean, there's older guys and mercenaries. It's a bunch of transfers on defense. I mean,
there's a lot of young guys that could play on defense though. If they really, I mean, the whole last two classes are full of defensive guys.
I mean, John Walker's sitting out the rest of the year.
Well, yeah. I mean,
are we talking about freshmen? I mean, there's plenty of, if you're talking about just experimenting, there's plenty of freshmen that are from the last two. There's like 6 million freshman DBs on this team that they could play. Like there's literally 6 freshman DBs that they could, and probably a few more sophomores. So there are guys that could play.
There's nobody. The thing is, nobody on our defense has played well enough to where they deserve to play, no matter what. Nobody on the defense deserves. And
I mean, Lee Hunter, number one. Lee Hunter absolutely should.
Lee Hunter.
There's a few other linebackers. Pierre's
for sure.
Deshaunte's, Pierre. Tennyson would have played, but he was injured.
But again, I'm not even saying like
there's a 2 deep. You can still play all those guys and play the other guys too.
You have to. This is the business. You guys signed up to win a conference championship. That's why you transferred in. That's done. So guess what? Sorry, but we have to start playing our younger guys. That's a conversation that when I went to Nebraska, Frost had. That's what he brought a lot of those seniors in and said, listen, we're 1-6, 2-6. We're probably not going to bowl game. We got Ohio State, Wisconsin. Like this, we're going to be realistic. I'm going to still start y'all. I'm going to play y'all, but I'm going to start working in some of these freshmen because they're the future. Sadly, I want you guys to still be able to put out tape. I'm going to keep you guys healthy, but we're going to start playing some of these young guys. And like I said,
was that a real conversation that y'all had, like where you sat down and he said it
1,000%.
Like that?
Yeah, but see,
it's fascinating.
That's what you have to do. And I know the world is completely different now because you tell that to some of these guys. I don't know, maybe not the seniors, but anybody else that has another year, they might transfer. Yeah, that's a different thing. But you have to start getting the young guys reps. You don't have to bench, Deshaun Pace. You don't have to bench them, but you need to start cutting in their plays. You need to start splitting it up.
I'll tell you what is fascinating, though. I'll tell you what is fascinating. What Roger brought up earlier about EJ only having 2 more games left, and if you're Gus Malzahn and you think he's the guy, like it just the way our schedule lines up. You got 2 home and 2 away. You got the groupings there of a home away, or excuse me, home away, away home. But you got the 2 groupings there with a game on the road and a game at home. If you split those last 4 games, and so it's almost like, do you just say to EJ, all right, listen, EJ,
Yep.
we're gonna preserve your red shirt. You're starting this week, and you're starting next week at Arizona State, and then when you're shut down for the season, you're gonna show us what you got. And you wouldn't give EJ the choice, but or do you say to EJ, all right, you can take the last 2 games of the season, but that means Rizk is going to play the next 2, and if he balls out, there's going to be some questions.
Exactly.
So
I can tell you this right now, Ben. I can tell you this right now, Ben. I agree with you and what Trey's saying, because we're already starting to lose. We've lost 3 guys in a week from the next recruiting class. We lost Cam White today. We lost Cam White today. We lost, I can't remember his name. Alan, remind me what the guy's name was. D lineman.
Christian Hudson?
Yeah,
Christian Hudson.
Yeah.
So again,
Colorado.
He went to Colorado. Oh yeah, that's right. He went to Colorado. Yeah, I saw that announcement.
And remember, Colorado was putting out there that he was coming there to see them at our game. So why we invited him?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just a fascinating dynamic the way our last 4 games line up like that, where they're, if you split them in half, you got a home and away there. And so if you're at this point, Gus needs to decide which one he wants to see the best look at. And if that's EJ, then I think he should start the next 2 games. And if it's not EJ, then you start Rizk the next few games and then see what you would like to do after that. Like the way that these next 2 games shape up from the quarterback position is fascinating and it's also frustrating because we're sitting here 8 games into this year where we have no idea who our quarterback is this season, next season, just because we haven't. It's not that we just haven't found it. It's that our head coach and staff seem to be searching for something that they're just not finding. And it's really frustrating as a fan to not have the most important position in all of sports be in have it be such in a disarray, right? Like it is this season.
Yeah.
I think they're finding the guys they want. I just think we run an outdated scheme. We all of the guys that what Gus wants to do.
Well, that's just as bad. If we've got
I agree. That's what I think is even worse.
It's horrible.
I agree. 1,000%. Why in 2024 are we recruiting quarterbacks again that are getting praised for going through progressions and making normal throws? That's crazy to me in 2024. That's insane. That's the standard for quarterback play. That's
like saying, man, he really made a good layup there and on that pass.
Exactly. Awesome. If you can't do that at basketball, how did you even get to college?
I was real proud of Mustafa Chiem that he nailed that layup in transition against
let me put it to you this way: the program right now is in free fall. Yeah, and by that I mean, by that I mean the recruiting's coming apart at the seams. You've got coaches that had playing duties pulled away from them, and now they're getting them back. We're firing our DC midseason, right? And so I'm gonna harken back to Deion Sanders here. Even though Deion Sanders, and I get part of his success this year is obviously Travis Hunter, and I get all that, right?
Yeah.
But despite everything that people said about Dion, he did it his way, and he said what he. I don't get that out of Gus. I get the same crap. I hate to say it that way.
Yeah.
Every single week.
We just got to fix
Where's
it.
the plan? You're the leader. Like
I've been saying this for the whole season.
Oh, the three of us, Josh Allen and I talked about that 4 weeks ago. It's just like,
there's no plan. There's no identity. Like you could say our identity is a run for, but there's no identity. This program, it's in free fall, and it's you have no one to blame but leadership. It's not it's just not good when your only win in 4 years is off-season booms like that. That can't be like the staple of your coaching. You have to be able to do
Miami football forever until this year.
That's always been Gus, though. Like, I don't understand where, like, Roger, when you say Gus's reputation, what is his reputation?
And the reputation is only getting worse. And it's funny. What he's doing right now, whether it was forced or not, it doesn't matter because it's the same pattern. Like, it's so funny. He's literally firing a DC in season, and he's giving up play calling duties to someone else because he's being pressured into it. That's exactly what happened in Auburn like 3 times.
Yeah.
That's what happened last year, only for him to take it back. And talking about like Gus leaving after the season, I think because he's likely being forced to not be the OC, he is going to leave because he can't relinquish that duty. How many times has he done this same thing over and over, given up play calling duties only to take it back, only to be pressured to be getting it taken away? He is the problem. And that's what we've been saying all season. It's his coaching staff. It's his play calling. It's him not developing talent. It's all these things that are just cascading into just a massive failure. And it's just,
I don't even think it's that. And I'll liken it back to business, right? When you are in a business and you're a leader of an organization, stuff like this is going to happen, right? The poop's going to hit the fan. You're not going to make sales quotas, whatever happens, right? At that point, when you have that situation happen, you triage. I don't see triage. What I see is he
doesn't know how to.
Well, yes, I agree. I don't see triage because triage means that you take assertive control of the program and you say this is what's going to happen. If I see Gus Malzahn up there this morning at 11:30 and he looks like he's like a child that got his hand slapped and he had to fire everybody, right? And and to make it worse, he trotted Ted Roof out yesterday for the interviews. And on top of that, the defense isn't the biggest problem. If he would have said, "Hey, look, guys, we need to make changes. These are the changes I'm going to make." You can't say he's kind of created this trap for himself because you can't say, "Hey, I've got Addison Williams, who's he tried to say he's an up and comer and blah blah blah." He did that last year; it didn't work, right? So now you can't replay that narrative again. It looks like you don't have a backup. Right. Granted, he had Henshaw last year that he tried to blame it on last year, and that was his reprieve, right? Which I don't believe in that because we all know that Henshaw was a figurehead anyway, right? So at the end of the day,
exactly the same.
Because he didn't come out and do it, because he was forced into it, and it was plainly obvious, that shows a lack of leadership. And that's why everybody's questioning him, because he let Ted Roof go out there last night. He didn't do it on the tarmac kind of situation, right? Because he showed up to the press conference completely frazzled and looking like bewildered and everything else, and because his body language said what it did, right? I get it. He's in a tough situation, but leaders lead, and I don't see any leadership in this leader.
Well, it's that and the 4 years of results of him doing the same thing over and over and just not working. I mean, it's just, this is it's that article. If you literally go read that Auburn article when they fired him and you replace the word Auburn with UCF, you would not be able to tell that they're talking about Auburn or UCF. Like there's zero difference. And every single complaint that we've ever had about Gus was exactly what that article was. It's honestly like eerie to read it. Like just pretend, don't read the word Auburn and you would think you're reading a UCF article right now. Like it's just
Gus is good with the players off the field.
He's
good at recruiting.
Great. Yes.
Right? If he would be doing those two things like Nick Saban did, and Nick Saban said, here's my system, right? But I've talked to offensive coordinators for Nick Saban that are now head coaches, and you know who those people are. Like, I've personally talked to them. Nick Saban had a framework and said, you work within this framework, but you run your offense, right? That's what we needed out of Gus Malzahn. And he took that step last year with the whole Christy Malzahn thing, but he dove right back into it because he's a head coach at heart. He's an offensive coordinator at heart, right? And I can't fault him for that, but at the same time, now it's to the detriment of the program.
If you're good at recruiting, though, but can't develop, like, recruiting's pretty empty, though. That's, like, my thing. I just don't, like, he just doesn't seem to, like, none of these players are turning into anything.
Your coordinators should be doing that, though. They should be developing.
Well, he hires
look at Mackenzie Milton. Okay, you had Mario Verduzco, right? Do you remember Mario? Crazy guy, had the same birthday as Beethoven or something. Like, had the glasses and whatever.
Yeah,
crazy guy, right? But look what he did with Mackenzie Milton. And to your point on Mackenzie Milton, Trey, what was coming out of camp? Because we were doing Nightline at that time when you were still playing, right?
Oh, he was special.
Everybody said he was special. That was a no question. And Frost just pulled the trigger and said, okay, let's roll. Like this, like to your point, season's gone. He's the future. And he still had that Maryland game, right? But you knew that. Who's that guy on this team? Supposedly EJ has been tearing it up, right? And practice.
You gotta go out there and let it roll and live with the results.
But he didn't do that. The problem was he let EJ go out there. He ran Ja'Cory Brown. Ja'Cory Brown took over for a couple of weeks. Had he let EJ continue, right? And I get why he did it because where we were at the season, right?
Yep. He was trying to save the season.
The game. At least give him a game because that shows confidence in him and saying, you know, when Gus says EJ's my guy, make the leadership choice in I live or die with you, EJ.
Yep. And I don't know. I think people have a lot of hindsight too. Like that Mackenzie Milton experiment year one, people were chanting for Justin Holman to go in the game at points in the season. They were literally
the last game of the season. I remember that. I don't remember that happening everywhere.
People wanted Justin Holman in the game because Mackenzie was so up and down. But you just have to live with it. I mean, Coach Root said it the best. He told us that kid is going to fill up this stadium and sell it out one day. He said, now, I don't think it's happening this year because he's too all over the place. He said, but in a couple of years, he's going to sell out the entire stadium. He was right because, again, when you have these young guys, it's like we've always said, Roger, it takes a special freshman to walk into college football and be a stud immediately at any position, let alone quarterback. It's hard because you're playing with grown men who've been doing this for 2, 3, 4 years, some of them 5, some of them 6 now. Like, it's crazy. Like, that's just what it is.
Some of them 8 if you're Cam Rising.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so to expect it made no – I was happy when Gus made the EJ move because I said, okay, you know what? He's like, listen, this isn't working. I'm going to go with the guy. He's a young guy, and he's doing the best. But when you pull him after 2 series, like, okay, 2 series aren't good. You have to keep going. You can't just
flip the ball downfield one time.
Exactly.
He overthrew him, but it's like give him more chance.
He got no time.
And it looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like that's another thing. It looks like Gus has no idea what he's doing.
He doesn't.
He looks lost at this point. He has no idea where to go from here is what it felt like. And that presser didn't help. I would have rather him push back the presser, got his bearings, had some answers, and then come out and say, look, guys, this is what we're doing. I got rid of Ted Roof. This is who's taking over this, that, and the other. He was asked who's taking over the linebackers. Nobody knew. And it turns out, okay, he's like, I don't have the answer for you yet. I'll talk. That just goes to show you it wasn't his decision. And then, right, we find out later that the director of player personnel is taking over at the linebacker coaching position, right?
Yeah.
That tells you everything. And we've learned that through Twitter. Like, as a leader, I know you're probably reeling. Take a step back, take a moment, breathe, figure it out, and then come back and put out the points and say, this is the path forward, and say it with conviction. Even if you're wrong, say it with conviction.
And like throwing in the towel because he knows
it doesn't help, Alan, like you said, that a quarterback nobody's seen that apparently is not going to play ever comes in and looks good. Like
that's a reoccurring theme, though.
Like I agree, and that's just how I don't understand. I mean, I understand it. It's just how can you see all season we can run the ball with the best of them? And honestly, KJ didn't add a lot to that running dynamic. It was a lot of RJ Harvey, Penny Boone, Miles Montgomery. For
KJ was off and on.
Yeah, but I'm saying it wasn't to the extent that Ja'Cory Brown adds. It was a little bit of a little smidge, a little dose. But like we got nothing in the pass game. So like why if we're losing games because we can run the ball but we can't throw, how is Dylan Rizk not even a vetted option? Like, that's just what I don't understand.
And someone that Gus recruited, too. It wasn't like this is a Mikey Keene situation where he was coming in from a previous – and there's a reason why 50% of the players were really upset when JRP won the role because they thought Mikey Keene won the role. Like, this is just like a reoccurring theme. Like, he keeps making the same mistake throughout his tenure.
Huh? JRP fit his mold, and quite frankly, JRP, again – was over 60% passing. He was 60.
He was good. Hold
on. Let me finish though. 60. It was like 63, 64% passing. EJ Colson coming out of high school, 63% passing, right? That's serviceable as a Division I quarterback. That's serviceable, right? The problem that JRP had that hurt him his entire career.
Couldn't stay healthy.
He couldn't stay healthy. And why did he do that? Because he is the competitor that he is, and he thinks he's infallible, right? And so that was the problem with JRP. But JRP wasn't a bad quarterback. I was telling you guys this when everybody was up in arms about JRP, right? He was serviceable. With the defense that we have now and the average number of points that we had when we had JRP, we would have won these games. Period. So I don't care. JRP's in the past. So is everything else. Where do we go? Where do we go going forward? Like, what do you guys see for the rest of the season? If I gave you a score prediction, or not score prediction, a season prediction right now, we know Alan's going to say we're going to lose all of our games. Everybody else, where do you think we are at?
Well, no, it's contingent, but go ahead.
Okay.
Honestly,
I don't know. No, Alan, go ahead with your asterisk.
Well, I think it depends on who we play at quarterback and how they look. Like, it's like you said, I think we could have won several of these games, the UF game, the Cincinnati game, probably the Iowa State game with competent quarterback play. I mean, Ja'Cory had under 100 passing yards and under under 60% completions in the last two games. We barely threw. He sucked when he did throw. So if Rizk is somewhat close to what he was in quarter 3 and quarter 4, I don't see why we couldn't win a couple of ball games to finish the year.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with who we're playing against. We have Utah in relative free fall. We have Arizona, who's lost the last 4 games.
West Virginia's not working.
West Virginia's probably we all talked about that being a hard game on the road this year. So who knows? Arizona State might be a toss-up too. So I agree with it depends on who we play. It also depends on how bad those teams are too, because Arizona has a quarterback and a wide receiver. And some stuff around it, but that's about it. One good win, and they have the same record as we do. They're 3-5 and 1-4 in conference.
We're not talking about Arizona because that's our preview for the next.
I understand, but you're asking what we're going to do. We have to see what our opposing teams are. I can see 6-6. I can also see not 6. I can, Trey. Don't give me that face, YouTube viewers. I can see it because the teams we're playing are not doing that great. I can also see winning one more game. So that's,
3-9 too.
Yeah, I think we win one more, but still, I really think it depends on a combination of which QB we actually have, and they're serviceable, right? And how down bad the rest of our teams were playing. Because right now, other than West Virginia, they're not happy.
I see realistically one more win. I mean, and that's just, I'm not trying to be negative. I think the perfect situation, we could win a game, but nothing has shown me all season, aside from playing non-New Hampshire and South Sam Houston, playing anybody that's any competitive, nothing gives me confidence that we can put together an entire game. Nothing gives me that confidence. I don't care if it's TCU or anything. That's just what I think. I think if we don't play Dylan Rizk after what I saw personally, then I don't think Gus truly wants to adapt, change, or anything. I would rather him go out there and say, we're playing Dylan. He looked good. We're going to give him a shot this week. Okay, it looks like you're trying to make a change. If you just go out there and try EJ, no problem with EJ. He's the future. It just looks like you ignored what you saw the last half of the game where our offense looked like it had some kind of life. For me, that's just that's just what
I think I would have more confidence if Ted Roof was still calling the defense, because I think defensively we were okay. I'm just putting it that way. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I don't like. No. Here's the thing. Like, no. I was gonna say this way earlier. Is like, no one is sitting here being like, oh my God, why did we fire Ted Roof? Like, what are we doing? Like, no one's like missing that. Like, I don't think, I agree that he got it better, but like he improved in a few of the last games, but like, I'm not like sad over this firing at all. And I don't necessarily think it's going to hurt our defense. That it could just be like a net neutral, or maybe it's a little.
I think it is going to hurt our defense, because our defense is better. I'll tell you why. I think our defense is better this year than it was last year's. Sorry. And we're handing the keys right back to the same defensive coordinator that we had last year. He has he is not seasoned enough for me to feel good about that happening. I hope he proves me wrong, but at least the last 3 games, other than BYU, I saw progress. And we had a lot of injuries last game. So I'm sorry. I think the offense has been the problem. You focus on the offense, you fix it. Whether you fire Ted Roof at the end of the season, fine. But we've seen progress. The tackling was better. We were more aggressive. We were getting pressure. We were getting strip sacks. We were getting turnovers. We were not getting that last season. And I have no confidence that we're going to continue to. Go ahead, Ben.
So one of the more fascinating things to think about in regards to Ted Roof firing is we've just talked about how this had to be some sort of conversation between Terry Mahajer and Gus Malzahn about you gotta change something. Somebody's got to be the scapegoat. And I just wonder if Terry Mahajer looked at Gus Malzahn today and said, it's got to be somebody. It's either one of your buddies, Herb Hand or Ted Roof. And he chose Ted Roof because he wasn't going to do Herb Hand. What is our offensive line been?
They've been okay. They've been okay. Statistically, they've been okay. Yeah. Yeah. Their rushing has been in the 60s.
Okay. Our rushing has been great. Yes. But our pass block has been average at best.
It's above average. But either way, that's not enough to lose. That's not enough to lose his job. I don't think. I mean, the biggest problem we've had is injuries too. Like, our starting center has switched 3 times, two seasons in a row. And that was due to injury. That was not because we had underperformance. That's been the biggest issue that we've had.
The defense also, as much as improving, has still also, and I know they've been on the field a lot, but I still agree with you that the offense is the bigger problem, but it still was a problem. Like, they've broken our back in a lot of different things with just 3rd down conversions, 4th down conversions, not being able to stop a mobile quarterback. Like, I get it. They were on the field and probably tired, but there was definitely moments in the Iowa State game where, as much as they helped us get to the point where we are ahead, they also broke our back in a lot of situations. Not as much as the offense, but I'm not going to sit there and like praise Ted Roof for the job that he did when, we're still like 87th in the FBS.
The defense was the lesser of 2 evils.
Yes, agreed. It was the lesser.
And improving. That's the thing. I see improvement in the defense. I don't see improvement in the offense. As
That's
a
fair.
former
That's
defensive player, I see improvement in the defense. I don't see improvement in the offense.
But the bars are like the expectations we had going into this season for the defense was so low. If they were to duplicate it, that would have I would have been like, well, I expected this. To me, the offense was supposed to carry us. It was supposed to be, if we can count on anything, it's going to be we can produce on offense. Those roles have flip-flop. So, like, yeah, the offense is so bad, it's glaringly bad. But like Alan said, the defense is better. But when the bar is the ground or the bottom of the ocean, I'd expect it to be better. And I'm not saying it as they weren't improving, because I did see that improvement. And I think if sustained, you could possibly see it down the line at the end of the year going into next year. How realistic was that? Like you said, I don't know. Terry probably said, listen, somebody's got to go.
Also, we were just literally a month ago, we were all talking about in UCF Nation as a whole, like how bad how bad a higher roof was, how bad that one press conference was, how bad that it was a questionable hire, all those things. So him, getting better the last few games is just a very recent thing, because as little as 4 weeks ago, we were talking about how bad we wanted him fired. Sorry.
All right. So on that note, let's go ahead and pivot. Ben.
Let me say one more thing, because we're talking about time of possession. So we're like middle of the country, somewhere in the 50s, or excuse me, no, we're like way on the bottom half overall this year. We're 114th, in the country at time of possession. In the country, the last 3 games, we are third to last in the country in time of possession. We are only having 22.51 time
as a
possession.
run first team.
As a run first team, number one, and it's not even close, by the way, in the Big 12. Like, it's not even close how like yard wise, like how we're the number one rushing team in the conference statistically. And it's just crazy to me how those two things don't marry up at all. Like,
because they're all big runs. I mean, look at the last game. It was a 47-yard run. It was a whatever yard run. When we break them, we break them. But the rest of the time, like,
we can't move the football.
I mean, we're talking about getting 1 yard on 3rd and 4th downs. We've been talking about this all season.
The only silver lining is the last 3 games, the worst time of possession in the country is the Cows. So,
nice. There we go.
There's
some positivity. That's what we needed. Let's go.
Yeah. Yet they're still.
We're not as bad as South Florida.
But according to Roger, they're not our rival.
They're not our rival anymore. I've passed them by.
No,
all right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and pivot and talk about Arizona and the annual space game. If there's anything to say about the space game, is we usually win them. So hopefully we win this one too. The only thing that worries me, normally I would say I'm not worried about Arizona. The thing that worries me is that they have is a Colorado part 2, right? They have a quarterback and they have a wide receiver that are excellent. They've been shut down by all the other teams, but our secondary is our weakness. The question is, are we going to try to overcome? If we single team one and shade one side of the field, we've got to get that stop on their number one wide receiver. If we don't, it's going to be a long game. We should beat Arizona, even with all of the changes and everything that's going on. But we're
favored to beat BYU, by the way.
We're favored to beat Arizona by 4.5, which is
Allen's made a lot of money this season.
The line's moved to 6.5. The line's moved
I did until freaking they covered against Iowa State. I was like, what? Where does this happen? How does this happen? Freaking Vegas.
Go ahead, Ben.
The line's moved to 6.5 now. We're favored by 6.
Someone is pranking us. Like, this cannot be real. I do not. Are they watching these games? Like, it does not make sense. We're 0-7 against the spread, like what, or 0-8 or like something around there. Why? Why do they keep favoring us? It makes BYU made 0 sense. I could not fathom
because talent is heavily weighted, and we have more talent than wins. That's why.
And they
can't. They don't only look at talent when they're doing the lines. Like, there's also like other factors like how you performed the entire season.
Like how you perform the entire
Like, you know, how you play football.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Wow, Alan.
I don't understand it either, Alan. It's crazy.
someone's
to me
breaking
that-
us. Like it's
Yeah,
like
it's crazy.
they're
I
tempting
think they
us.
might be mistyping instead of minus. They should be putting blood.
We're favored more times this year than we were in 2017 undefeated. 100%. That's a fact. Which is crazy.
Alan thinks that's funny. Okay, so so at this point, what do we think? What are we expecting for this Arizona game? I'm gonna throw it up there. Look, for me, if we stop the pass, they've got one weapon that they go to. If we shade that and we actually look back and not get pass interference every other play, and if we shade our defensive backs and they're not playing 75 yards off of like, let's bump him, get him out of rhythm, and then shade somebody over there to get inside. That's the key to beating Arizona. Do we think we will actually do it? We should get some of our guys back for this game, our starters back for this game as well, which should help.
Kobe might not be.
That's the if we get our 3 people back on defense or even 2, we have a shot. It's listen, maybe they go for 300 yards between those 2 people and we shut everything else down. To me, it doesn't matter. Can we actually score? This is ridiculous. We have to say this at a UCF in any UCF history that we just have to score. Like, it doesn't. We scored 24 points or we're winning at least 2 or 3 more games, which is ridiculous. And this is also why the fandom is probably really, really upset. I was going to try an E for everyone comment, but that's the fact we can't score 21, 24, 28 points in a game. It just floors me. It just absolutely floors me.
That's what the brand has been built off of. Is exciting offense. That's from 2024. We are supposed to be an exciting offense, and it looks we look like we might as well. To me, if you looked at our stats, you would think we were Army or Navy and we ran triple option all game.
Yeah, and
at least
maybe it'd be better if we did.
I mean,
but
we don't, and we try to pass the ball and we can't. Like, it's
So something that I saw in practice and we heard in practice, and maybe Alan heard some of this too, was there were some sets with 2 running backs in either a pistol or some type of formation that they were practicing in spring, maybe even in fall. And I haven't seen that once. You know, there's so much other deception that, you know, since everything is run on deception, there's so much other deception we haven't even rolled out yet. I don't know, man. I think that's when
stubborn coach. He doesn't adapt, and it's all cool to practice it and try it out. But when the guns are shooting and the bullets are flying, Gus is gonna do what he does. It's run the ball and run the ball and run the ball. That's all he wants to do. Like, that's literally it. And there's no adapting. He doesn't change. He doesn't adjust. It's very rare that he does that.
This is when we need a Charlie Taff, rest in peace. I mean, that was what got O'Leary over the edge, was having Taff up there running offense, and just that seriously made a difference. And I will say there are a lot of people, Alan is one of them, maybe some others on the podcast, and maybe some of you who are listening, that think that the luster of UCF has worn off. And I really feel like that is probably the key point. We're used to seeing what we had with Frost 2016 and on, right? You know, even like the Maryland game where McKenzie got 6 turnovers or whatever, you can still see where those things came from. And I feel like the fact that we can't score, which again is just insane, and coming from Frost and Heupel, and even Gus, who has this offensive minded, wrote the book type of deal, I feel like that wins and losses, yes. And the fact is that we have an expectation as a fan base of an exciting or interesting offense, and we're not seeing it. And you know what? One other thing that we haven't seen, we've seen like no trick plays this year, which is insane. Like, we saw more trick plays.
We don't have the ability to run them.
What do we
listen? No, we were complaining about. You can't say that. We were complaining about the trick plays last year. Like
And now I kind of want them.
Thank you. I mean,
I don't even want that. I can't do it again.
But anyway, I feel like that luster feels like it's off from a fan base because we're seeing us lose 19-14 to Cincinnati, and scoring twice in the.
We built up an identity. We hired a guy who's supposed to be an offensive guru, and even if you lose the games, if it's like entertaining, right? Yeah, we saw. If it's entertaining because you're trading points like a Texas Tech type game, then like at least that's fun, right? Yeah. Right now, it's like I think I heard Alan say this maybe 2 weeks ago. Like we get behind 7, we feel like we can't catch up.
Yeah,
that's the
I've
problem.
never felt that way
ever.
Except for when you're in the
for 10 years.
O'Leary ball and the pre-Taft, like that was the last time I felt that way. But I never had to worry because we had such a good defense, no one else could score on us. So it was probably not as risky.
Yeah, so let's give the number 11 team in the country the ball first. Let's do that. All
right. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and because we have to, let's cover last week's picks. So Ben did not pick anyone because he wasn't on the pod, so he got the big old asterisk. Alan picked 31-24 BY Who. Trey did not pick anyone because he wasn't on the podcast last week, so he gets a bunch of asterisks. Nobra, all right, we're bringing him back on for this. Nobra picked BYU 34-14. I picked UCF 28-24. And last but not least, but always last, Josh Lazar picked UCF 28-27 post ISU. So
flowers.
See, y'all believe like Vegas believe.
Well, after ISU, did you expect this? I didn't.
Yes.
That's why I picked it.
Do we have to say it? Gus is going to give you one game where you're like, man, that was a really good game for our team. I think we could turn it around. He does it every year.
I think it goes back to JB and the choice of JB. But at that point, you can't really not start JB because, again, the passing situation. All right. So that being said, we can argue that until we're blue in the face. Let's go ahead. Voice. So let's go ahead and make our picks.
Wait, I'm not going to get the credit here for having closest to the pin. What the hell?
I already said you won closest to the pin. Did you not hear it?
Cares.
Alan, did you not hear it?
There, Ben gave me the clap. I'll take it. All right, move on.
Pause.
All right, everybody, let's take a moment for Alan. Congratulations. You get the gold star in the loss.
I think the joke is better than that loss.
Josh.
All right. So let's go ahead and pick next week's game. We're going to be playing in the space game, which traditionally we've done well. So I don't know if that impacts your picks, but let's go ahead and talk about those. So Nobra, let's start off with you this week since you texted in your pick. We know Ben's going to copy ours. Go ahead.
Mine is 28-24 UCF.
28-24 UCF. All right. Trey's shaking his head. I'm going to go to him next.
I'm going to say 31-20 Arizona.
31 what?
To 20.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and go with Alan next.
I'm going to go 34-21 Arizona.
Okay. Ben Stout, what have you got?
I put it in a text talk or a text message about 20 minutes ago, so you can read it from there because you always accuse me of stealing everybody's.
Let's see.
Go ahead, Roger. You already saw it, which you're probably going to base your score off of it. So go ahead. Go ahead, Roger.
24-17 UCF.
24-17 UCF is what Ben had. I just had to look it up.
And then I said, I don't even really believe it, but I'm putting it in there.
He did. He's putting a giant asterisk on there. Josh Lazar, what have you got?
34-31 UCF.
Wow.
Don't ask me why.
We think we can score 34 points?
That's not.
It depends on who the QB is. So, I mean, in all honesty, I really do see at least 2 wins. And if we get this win, if we win this game, we might have a shot at like getting some level of optimism that there could be a bowl game.
I'll tell you why
everything's off.
I'll tell you, I agree with that. I'll tell you why the main reason I think we lose is Gus has killed every single tradition we've had, like winning at home, all these things. So it only is right for him to kill the perfect space game record. That's the next thing on the list he's going to kill. So,
oh my gosh, Alan. Okay, I'm going to finish this off, and no, Ben, I'm not going to be anywhere near your score because I think you're a little conservative for both offenses. Well, maybe Arizona's offense. I'm going to say 32-28 UCF.
Wow.
Are you going to pick UCF?
Let me ask you guys.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I always pick UCF.
I don't know if I could pick UCF
Roger and
at
Josh,
West Virginia.
Roger and Josh, though, are your predictions with the thought process that Dylan Rizk, however you say his last name, Rizk or Rizk, is going to start at quarterback? Or are you just saying, whether it's EJ or Dylan, you think that we can put up 30-something points?
I think we can put up near 30 points with anyone, possibly, but really, with Dylan in, I actually think that's possible.
No, they're just picking UCF because they always pick UCF. That's really what it is.
You asked me the question. I'm going to answer it, right? So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this with clarity. In this week's game, I do think that if we play the defense properly, right, and I described how I thought we should do that, right. They're a one-dimensional offense, and I think that we can get them off of the field. So that's what I think, right? And because of that, whether it's JB and him running a zillion yards, their defense is nowhere near as good as BYU's or ISU's. I think we can beat them on the ground, right? Yeah. Okay. I also think, I mean, there is some thought process behind it, right? The other part about this is I do think that they're going to be able to take advantage of our DBs at times. So they're going to get theirs. Those 2 players are good enough to get theirs. But what they've done throughout this season, and again, you guys know I'm on the Big 12 huddle, right? So I kind of keep up with this stuff on all the different teams. Their defense is not good. Mm-hmm. Their offense is one-dimensional.
Yes.
And like
I think that I think our defense is better than Arizona's defense. So I'm serious about that. Go look at the numbers, Trey. I'm not even joking.
Look at the numbers. I'm being generous with 31 points. They haven't even scored more than 30 points except for New Mexico. They haven't gotten above 26 points all season, except for the first game where they blew out New Mexico. I'm giving them a little bit of extra oomph for 31 points with our defense and whatever that might be this week based on what's going on. The question is whether we can score that much. And with a combination of what I'm seeing, it's possible.
And that's why I gave them 28, right? Is because I don't know what kind of secondary we're going to get this week. Like, I really honestly don't. And
if Curry Brown's playing, do y'all think, does y'all score hinge on the quarterback?
For me, no.
Slightly.
Not this game.
Yeah, mine does.
Not this game. And I'll say this. Here's the reason I say that. Their defense isn't great, and we can run the ball. Whether it's with JB and RJ or not, they cannot stop the run defensively. And I think that we can run them over. And I think offensively, even if we do a little bit of scouting, even with depth, a question in the DB, because they are so one-dimensional. I mean, it's one thing to be one-dimensional and get 3 yards a carry. It's another thing to be one-dimensional and have a 50-50 pass every single series, right? So I think for me, I'm comfortable. I think they're going to get theirs. I think there's going to be breakdowns in the secondary, which is why I'm giving them 28 points.
Yep.
Because I'm accounting for that. But I do think that we win the time of possession game this week. I think we run the ball effectively. And if Dylan Rizk's in, it may be more than that. but I do think we win at least 32-28 this week. And I think we will get a turnover too because they pass so much.
I guess, you know how we're saying if we because they're one-dimensional, if we shut it down, we should be good. Is Arizona not doing the same thing for us?
I mean, every team has done the same thing for us. That's why I get what you're saying is a contingent on Dylan being the quarterback, and that's why I'm saying slightly, because if JB can hit a pass, we're good. Yet he hasn't gotten over 100 yards in 2 games. That's why the answer is right. The answer is yes. And if we could just run them over, if they throw in a spy and we run them over, it's possible too. It's also RJ might go for another 200 again. So
I think it's
maybe
possible.
we'll throw a wheel route like 6 times and we get it. So I do feel like it's probably more points than I expect, but I definitely feel like you can't be ignorant to the fact of what you just saw. I don't care if they're BYU's number 2s. Arizona got beaten by BYU 41-19. So they've also got beaten and probably threw up some yards in their 2s too. I feel like you have to get a mix of something, and I feel like we might even win by more than that, but that's why I have that high of a score for us, because I feel like it's a mix of Arizona's going to score some. They haven't scored over for 30. There's some weirdness in what we are doing defensively. We'll get there. They'll get there. Can we get there? And I feel like we have to, and we might.
All right. And on that note, let's go ahead and pivot away from this and talk about the Big 12 football scores in Week 7 recap. Kansas State beats Kansas 29-27. Surprisingly enough, Kansas put up a fight in this game, but it is a rivalry game, so that's maybe not as surprising. Baylor beats OSU 38-28. I actually called that on the Big 12 huddle. I thought that would happen. TCU beats Texas Tech. I also called that one 35-34. Texas Tech has a good offense, but has no defense. Speaking of Mackenzie Milton-like offenses, their quarterback has those arm angles like Mackenzie Milton. So it's very interesting to see. West Virginia beats Arizona 31-26. Houston beats Utah. Houston beat Utah 17-14. That's crazy. Colorado beats Cincinnati 34-23. I called that one as well. Big 12 with 4 ranked teams. ISU drops to number 11 despite not playing, so they lost against the bye. BYU is up to number 9. KSU is down 1 spot to number 17, and Colorado enters the top 25 at number 23. UCF's 5 conference opponents are now 20-4 in conference place. So take a little bit. This season was not supposed to be this way. The teams that were supposed to be good were not. We were supposed to miss some of that, and vice versa. So I don't know, folks. 20-4 for conference opponents this year. I think we had a better schedule than we thought we did.
Well, it reversed. It's crazy. The 4 teams that we did not expect Iowa State and BYU to be top 10 teams, nor do we expect Colorado to be top 25. So it's interesting. And then the harder games, we thought West Virginia, Utah are now looking like the quote unquote easier games, which is funny how that kind of worked out.
I agree. Although I did call Iowa State this year the entire offseason. So nobody believed me, including you guys. But
they had 9 wins last year, so it wasn't that crazy. But
I don't remember. I literally don't remember anybody saying Iowa State was a bad team. But if you want to,
they had 9 wins last year. They were like top 3 in the conference.
If you want to make that up, you were the Iowa State god, Roger.
No, I will pull. I will. You know what? Let me say this about that. We'll pull. Actually, no, but will, because I don't have time. No, let's pull the Big 12 predictions for this year preseason and see what I'm talking about. I told you guys Iowa State was going to be a better team than we thought they were. So
I think also it was going to be a hard game.
Yeah, I think most of us said it was going to be a hard game.
So let's go ahead and in the interest of time, let's go ahead and pivot to listener love, because we're now at 1:44, an hour and 44 minutes in. First of all, let me start with this. I owe an apology to Randy Watts. So Randy Watts, if you're listening, I know you're still following. You put a comment in there 5 days ago that said, "Hey, that's my son. I agree, but he called me a grandpa." That was me, Roger Phipps, aka Night Bengal. I owe you an apology, sir. I have as much gray hair as you do and have 2 younger children. So I just wanted to give you a shout out, number one, for continuing to follow, like, subscribe, you comment as well. And I will, you know what they say about assuming things, that I'm certainly, and I'm saying this publicly, the first part of that saying. So thank you so much for continuing to follow. Next, we had quite the conversation with Eric Edwards on Twitter. Yes, we are on Twitter, folks. The first, he opened up the conversation, Eric Edwards at UCF CO Guy 0218, and he also was a follower of ours at Nightline. He said, "Do you ever have Trey and Ben on? I thought they'd be on this episode." Guess what? I've got both of them on this episode.
Greetings.
As I explained, where's the gentleman? Greetings, gentlemen.
Greetings, gentlemen.
There you go. So greetings, Eric. We have both of them on this week. Unfortunately, life has changed, as we've explained, but had a lot of great comments back and forth. So make sure you check out those on Twitter. We appreciate both of you for following, subscribing, commenting. And I promise you, I'm not trying to get rid of Ben or Trey. They're both good friends of mine, and obviously a great part of the show. So
and thanks for the shout out, Eric. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Ben was like, "Nobody wants to listen to me." I'm like, "That's not true. There's this one guy, Eric Edwards."
This one guy.
I appreciate it, Eric. Thanks for the love, man.
One out of a couple hundred.
All right. Well, I think you're pushing us a little low. There's the few episodes where we have thousands of views, literally thousands.
Couple hundred.
Okay. No, thousands, literally thousands.
Yeah.
So
we're good. We're good.
So let's go ahead and pivot to Alan's Oxymoronic stat of the week. Alan, what do you have for us this week?
Oh God, this could be good.
Yeah, it's going to be a little depressing.
All right, so we'll change it again this week to Alan's depressing stat of the week. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks ago, I made some comparisons to the 2015 team, and I can't.
You're perking up for this one.
What?
Boy, I thought that would never be mentioned ever again.
Well, I can't.
Sorry, Trey.
I can't shake the feeling of how much this feels like 2015, despite that we have 3 wins and we had 0 that year. But I had to just look at everything I could find that was similar, and there was quite a few similarities. So, first of all, in 2015, we played 4 different quarterbacks. This year, we've officially played 4 different quarterbacks. We had 1 stud on offense back then, Traquan Smith, who was the American Freshman of the Year and broke a
circus catch guy.
What was that?
Circus catches, like always.
Yeah, and he broke a freshman record for receiving yards that year. And then we have 1 stud on offense on this team in RJ Harvey, who is about to break or has already broken multiple records this year. And actually, we missed it. He actually moved into 3rd all-time after last week's game in rushing yards and is now 130 yards away from moving into the number 2 spot all-time in UCF history. So shout out to RJ Harvey. Next is we lost to an SEC by double digits in the 4th or the 5th game of the season in 2015. We lost to an SEC team by double digits in the 5th week of this season. We lost to our first conference opponent by double digits in 2015. We lost to our first conference opponent by double digits this year. A coach was fired in season, George O'Leary. A coach was fired in this season, our defensive coordinator. The last time we had 3+ losses at home was in 2015. That's happened again this year. Last time we had 13 points or less twice in a season, 2015, also happened this year. Passing offense in 2015, 187 yards per game. This year, 186.9 yards per game. 1.1 passing touchdowns per game that year, exactly the same this year, 1.1 passing touchdowns per game. Defense produced 1.3 turnovers per game. This year is producing 1.1. The total season last in 2015, we had 12 total turnovers produced. This year we're at 10, so could be around similar. Also, final stat, in 2015, we averaged 6.3 penalties per game. This year, we're averaging 6.3 penalties per game. And
That's
that,
great.
So Alan just mic dropped, yet we still have 3 wins this season. Trey, how do you explain this, man? You were on that team.
Listen, 2015, everybody was saying offense sucks, defense sucks, special teams sucks. Are we saying the same? We're not saying the same thing about this team, which is crazy. Because Alan just brought the stats, and it's pretty much the same thing.
The big difference is the 3 wins, and our rushing is significantly better than that team's rushing.
Yeah.
All right. So now that Alan has caused you all to grab your Zanny bars, let's go ahead and move on to Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. Josh, take it away.
Yeah, like that's not going to make us E for everyone this week.
Follow that up.
I'm just going to. This is a softball this week. I'm not even going to try to go that hard. How long has it been since Arizona's played? How long has it been since Arizona played in the Eastern time zone? Simple question. Give me a number of years.
0.
Ever? Or you mean like as an opponent, like an opponent? You're saying
Ever since 1800 and whatever when they started playing.
I'd say 8 years.
I have to think there'd be a bowl game somewhere.
Did you say how long has it been, or how many times have they played in the Eastern?
How long has it been since Arizona's played in the Eastern time zone?
I'm just going to say, I don't know, 6 years.
I'll go
Got
10.
6, 8, 10. Trey?
10.
This is the first matchup between Arizona and UCF, as we all know. And it's the first time since 1999 that the Wildcats have played in the Eastern time zone. So that's 25 years.
Wow.
Arizona opened up that season versus Penn State. Thank you, Arizona Game Notes.
All right. So now that we've understood that Josh did absolutely no research for this week's
nope.
Let's go ahead and pivot to the quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch and are probably not much better news. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, we got some wins there, right? So we have some wins. So men's soccer, they beat Kentucky 2-1 at home, and then they lost to Georgia Southern away 0-2. Up next, the team plays South Carolina at home on Friday, November 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern. Women's soccer tied at home versus Cincinnati 2-2, so no loss there. Next game up is on the next game up. I didn't even put it into the notes because I'm tired. Women's volleyball lost at home 1-3 to Houston and have been on a bit of a slide. Next game.
Now, hold on. I was there for that game. I was actually courtside. So shout out to I can't remember the guy's name, but shout out to you for giving my daughter and I courtside tickets, bottom to low. We actually got checked for all of that. But I just wanted to say this. UCF's volleyball team, what I saw this week, having been there live, they have the capacity to win a lot of these games. They just aren't there yet. We've got a lot of youngsters on this team, and I think they will be better next year. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, go ahead, Josh.
Okay, so the women's volleyball team is going to be playing at Halloween. That would be actually, though, on the 30th of October on Wednesday versus Cincinnati, and they are going to be playing away at Texas Tech at 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 2nd. Something interesting going on. We'll see if we get any type of wins here. The Women's Cross Country Championship is this Friday, November 1st. Maybe we'll see some positive things there. Don't know. The women's basketball team has an exhibition this Tuesday at October 29th at 7 p.m. at home. They are playing Edward Waters. Yeah, that's it. Edward Waters. The women's softball team continues to have some more fall ball, but there's only a few things left on the softball team. They're going to be playing, that's actually next week. They're going to be playing against Florida Tech for the Autism Awareness and Acceptance Game toy drive. So if you're going out there, grab a toy and bring it with you. That's at versus Florida Tech at home at 6 p.m. And again, that mission is still free to the public, but bring a toy this time. And that is pretty much what we got. So a couple wins, couple ties.
Hold on. Men's baseball continued their fall ball exhibition schedule this week at home on October 26th and 27th at 1 p.m. with their Black and Gold World Series. Actually, when I was on campus for the volleyball game, I saw the Cincinnati game going on at the same time. Softball was playing and baseball was playing all at the same time. And last but not least, so I'll say it this way, we have hoops to look forward to in 1 week, folks.
Yeah.
1 week we've got hoops.
Well, that's something Roger listens to. That's we don't see Roger listens to that, so I can't talk about it.
Okay. So I don't just listen, I actually watch, and I do go there.
So does Alan.
I have basketball season tickets as well. So I don't make it to all the games, obviously, because I'm not here. But I live in Santa Rosa Beach. But when I do, I always show up. And I do want to give a quick shout out to Ben, because Ben will be covering that for us this week as a former this year as a former basketball player. We will also have a surprise basketball alum that will be joining us as well. And obviously, I played a little bit of hoops, and so I'm enjoying and looking forward to this. This team is going to be really, really interesting because we don't know what we're going to get, but we got a heck of a lot of raw talent. Florida Gulf Coast, that game that they beat Florida Gulf Coast, they put it together in the last few minutes of that game, quarter, and they showed what they can be. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Real quickly, I do want to give a quick shout out since we're talking about UCF alum. Unfortunately, breaking news.
Yeah,
there was a UCF alum who recently moved on to the NBA and had a very, very bad injury. So, Alan, do you want to give that quick update real quick?
Yeah, unfortunately, our one of our only lottery picks we've ever had, maybe the only one, I don't recall, but Taylor Hendricks on the Utah Jazz, who's having had a promising rookie year, just had if you ever saw the Gordon Hayward injury when he was in Boston, that opening game against Cleveland, it was weird. It was a non-contact injury. He looked to just not even moving fast. He was like kind of just walking, and his foot got caught under him, and I guess his bottom kind of came down on his foot, and it was dangling real bad. Obviously a season ender, hopefully not a career ender. So prayers out to Hendricks, but it's unfortunate. It was a pretty gruesome injury on his foot. Looks like to be lower leg foot type of injury. So prayers up to one of the best UCF basketball players to ever do it.
All right. And 100% agree. I did see a report. It looks like it was a dislocated ankle and a broken fibula. So, for him, it was a bad dislocation. So prayers up for him. Outside of that, Night Nation, let's see what we get the rest of the way out. We're playing with house money. At this point, I'm hoping that, we do see a little Dylan Rizk. I don't think we will see EJ Colson for another couple of games. That being said, enjoy it while you can. Continue to support, and we'll see what happens next year. Go Knights and
charge on. Man, we're so in sync. It's tearing up my heart when